As part of our mission and vision, a topic we at BH Futures come back to is leadership. True leadership is what pushes a society to progress, and it is a skill that takes time to nurture and develop. It is time to take a step back and consider just what it takes to make an aspiring leader into an inspiring one. What questions do future-ready leaders contemplate? Brought to us by Azra Osmancevic, Head of Business Development at Viaplay Group, former lawyer, former junior judge, and a co-founder of a legal tech startup, Justic. She also happens to be an active angel investor. I could see a couple of heads perked up back there in the back row. Yeah, you. So, a board member and the founder of Femtorship, a mentoring program for young women. Azra is an active keynote speaker on business development, leadership, and entrepreneurship. Most recently, she was chosen by Nordic Women in Tech Awards as the Digital Leader of the Year in the Nordics. Thank you for honoring us with your presence, Azra. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm going to sit down like a stara nena. No, but seriously, I was up at 3 a.m. to catch a very, very early flight to be here. So I was like, I need to sit down this time. And I'm so happy to be here and so honored. I've never been to Bosnia during winter time, so this is my first experience of winter in Bosnia. And I called my mom yesterday, and I was like, idem u Sarajevo sutra. She was like, oh, baš fino, a ti znaš da je puno magla u Sarajevo kad je zima. And I was like, okay, nekad ne može da sleti avion. I was like, okay. And she, ali bit će to dobro, sine, hajde ti. I was like, oh, okay, fala, I think, or? No, but seriously, I'm so happy to be here. And before we jump into this, I just want to acknowledge and take the time to say a big thank you to all the volunteers, all the organizations, the sponsors, everyone, the hosts who are working here these 3 days and who have worked a long time for all of us to be able to be here. So please help me give them a big, big round of applause. Thank you. So, okay, leadership, it's one of my favorite subjects. And I think that you and I know that sort of over the course of history, leaders and leadership have been assigned certain traits, certain characteristics. You think of a leader, you think of someone who is, determined, who can execute a strategy, they have goals, they are someone who can attract talent, retain talent. And all of that is good and that's great. But I think, people evolve, organizations develop, and so the discipline of leadership is also developing. And to prepare for this, I actually had about 20 conversations with peers of mine who are leaders in different industries all over the world. And I asked them, what do you think is important now that we're going into the future? What is important for you as a leader? What kind of skills? What do you think about? And today I'm going to share with you 10 key takeaways from those conversations that I had with my friends. So the first question is, are you reconnecting with your purpose and your passion? And I think that this is perhaps more important now than ever. And the rationale is very simple, because passion and purpose are great motivators. They keep you on track, they make sure that you stay true to yourself and that you sort of that you are motivated in tough times, but also celebrate yourself when things are flying high. And a friend of mine put it very nicely. She said something like, if your purpose and passion is somehow intertwined in your daily work, then you know that you are on the road to success. And I think as a leader, you sort of need to take time. You need to remind your employees. You need to build safe spaces for them to be able to remind themselves about their passion and purpose. So every time that I have a kick-off with my teams, I take a one-on-one with each one of them, and I ask them, so, we come to the office every day. how do you feel that, are you aligning with your passion and purpose? Like what part of this job is aligned with your passion and purpose? And it never hits wrong. 50% know an answer, like, yeah, it's because of this, this, and this, and the other 50% are like this. Like, I've never thought about this. So I think this is a question that, a lot of people don't think about, but it's actually a great compass. And I think you should, if you haven't asked yourself this question, I think you should. Next question is, are you supporting lifelong learning? And I think, tomorrow's talents are formed today, right? So we need to make sure that we give our youth all the sort of tools they need so they can be educated. And by education, I don't just mean, theoretical knowledge. We need to make sure that our youth are prepared for work life. You need to have soft skills. How do you communicate? How do you collaborate? All of this is super important. And as a future leader, I think you also need to remind yourself that education is not only important up until you start working. You need to make sure that you educate yourself throughout your career. You need to make sure that you upskill, that you reskill when you are working. So I have a mandatory request that all of my team members put 3 hours together on e-learnings every month, but also 3 hours together on individual e-learnings. So 6 hours per month, they dedicate to doing something that is completely different towards what we're doing every day. Because I want to build new paths in their brains, because it's not good to just do repetitive work all the time. Next one. Do you have a global mindset? So the world is becoming increasingly connected, and that means that companies have a great potential for worldwide employees and customers. And the mentality of having a global mindset is, thinking globally, but also embracing diversity and inclusion. So leaders need to be open for new cultures. They need to build diverse team. They need to make sure that they have inclusive decision-making processes. And a part of sort of having a global mindset is having an inclusive mindset. And there are different types of biases that you sort of need to watch out for. And one of my favorite ones to talk about is the birds of a feather stick together. Have you heard of that one? Where leaders, they tend to assign greater value to opinions that are similar to their own. And you need to watch out for this, especially when it comes to recruitment processes. You need to ask yourself, and this is a great question that I found in a study that says, you need to ask yourself, am I recruiting this person because it will be a good part of the team, or am I recruiting this person just because his or her skills? So if you're asking yourself this question, you are more likely to end up with final candidates that have other backgrounds, other skills, other experience than those that you have right now in your current group. And that's what makes them a perfect fit. You don't want to add another Azra in our team. We already had an Azra. You don't want to add another Sana in Sana's team. They already have a Sana. We need a Senad in our team, or whoever who comes with something different. That's how you build strong teams. And another very important argument for inclusion in the workspace is the power it has when it comes to sort of unleashing the collective intelligence of a group. So even before it was sort of fully understood as a scientific topic, human beings intuitively understood that groups tend to make better decisions than individuals. And if you look at studies, like recent studies on this topic, they will tell you two things. And it's one that the collective intelligence is not strongly correlated to each member's intelligence. So just because you and you and you and you are super smart doesn't mean that you're very strong as a team. However, it does say that to grow, to strengthen the collective intelligence in a group, there are two things you need to do. One, make sure to include more women in the team. And two, make sure to raise the voices of everyone that's in the team. So no matter gender, no matter age, make sure that everyone has a strong voice. Those are the two things that you need to think about to sort of strengthen the collective intelligence in a group. And by intelligence, I don't just mean, the skills that you have, you're good at math or whatever. We also talk about emotional intelligence. We need to learn how to learn from each other. So as leaders, we need to make sure that team members, that they understand how to read a room. So they understand, like, okay, now it's my turn to talk. Now it's my turn to share my views, my visions, and all of that. But also, now it's my turn to shut up and pass the word on to someone else. That is emotional intelligence, and you need to have that in a group. So if you see, I think we all know that person who's like, la 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 la, never shuts up. No emotional intelligence. Yeah. Okay? Next one. Do you balance humanity and technology? So much like chefs, leaders have to balance numerous sort of ingredients to make a masterful meal. And two of the most essential ingredients to me in any business are humanity and technology. And you should use technology to improve the efficiency in an organization. And you need to do that while you're caring for your coworkers. And to me, it's sort of pretty clear that the other one can't live without, they can't live without each other. They need each other to succeed. And I'll give you a perfect example of a typical pitfall when it comes to humanity and technology. Have you guys heard of software graveyards? Someone's nodding, someone's looking like, what the fuck is that? Yeah, but so software graveyards, this is a typical leadership sort of classic fail. Because right now everyone wants to be digital, right? We're like, we want digital tools, it's so cool to be digital, let's just digitalize the entire thing. And then the leader steps in and they're like, yeah, everyone's going digital, we need to go digital as well. Can I get the techie in here, girl, guy? Can you explain to me, what kind of tools do we have? And then the techie comes in and there's like, yeah, this cool tool, this cool, and there's like, okay, $500 million, take in all those tools. Let's just implement the shit out of this and let's roll. And you do all of that. And then, when you've done that, you get like 50% of the people in your organization coming back and saying, what is this for? I don't understand. What am I supposed to do? And that only means that, the leader, the management team, they haven't done the groundwork. They haven't, started with the basics of understanding what their, how their organization is working right now. And where are the pitfalls? What do we need to make more efficient? And then go to the tools. And not like, buy a bunch of stuff, because 50% of it, or even more, I think the study showed, ends up in a software graveyard when no one uses it, because no one understands. It doesn't fill a purpose. So humanity and technology, they need to be balanced. And the next one. Are you flipping the hierarchy upside down? And this is probably my favorite. I would be a little ballsy and say that you can't say that you're a top leader in the future unless you are doing this. And I'm going to say something really important now. A leader's job is not to be the smartest person in the room with all the answers. A leader's job is to architect the game board where as many people as possible can bring their ideas, their expertise, their knowledge to the table. And you need to make sure as a leader that everyone has a strong voice of their own, and they're not just echoing whatever your teammates is saying or whatever you are saying. Because think about the sessions that you sit in. You probably know the people who are like, oh, he just said what I said. Well, he just said, we all have that. And a leader's job is to make sure that people develop and that they create strong voices of their own. Next one. Are you being someone's pushy facilitator? So our youth today has enormous potential. You guys have enormous potential. But it's a leader's job to make sure that you have a future to grow into. So as leaders, we need to see the youth, and we need to make sure that we are mentoring the youth. We need to make sure that we help you guys empower yourselves. And I've had several pushy facilitators over the years who have helped me, when I don't know how, which decision is right, or when I've had tough times in my team, layoffs or whatever. I've had people around me who've helped me, who are, and they don't even have to be more senior, because that's what you usually think about when you think about a mentor. You think about someone who's senior, who's worked in the same lane as you have for 500 years. But you know what? One of my best pushy facilitators are my peers. The people who are, they're sitting around you right now. In 10 years, all of you will be in different industries. You work your way up, and those people will be your pushy facilitators, who you can turn to and talk about, hard stuff at work, and that you can connect with and be comfortable in discussing hard things with. So I think leaders need to always have an eye out for the youth and make sure that, we open doors for them. And that's setting an example so that when you guys become senior, you will also keep an eye out for the youth. Next one. Are you unleashing your inner Yoda? And the Star Wars fan like, hell yeah, I am. What does this mean? But no, for decades, I think leaders have been shying away from emotions. It's almost like emotions are poison when it comes to good decision making, when actually it's the other way around. You need to know empathy, understanding other people's perspectives. You need to be self-aware. You need to know your own strengths and weaknesses. And better yet, you need to learn how to tell other people about your strengths and weaknesses and not be ashamed to do that. And let me give you a real-life example of how much we are craving this. So my dear Nena, she passed away this summer. And during the fall, I wrote a chronicle, and it was published in one of the biggest newspapers for managers in Sweden. And I wrote about leading in grief, because that's what I went through during the fall. That's what I'm going through right now. And I got comments on LinkedIn in the sort of open comments. Everyone's like, oh, so brave, talking about this, vulnerable. But it was in my inbox that things totally exploded. And I had so many leaders from different kind of industries reaching out and like, wow, this is such a stigmatized subject. It's so great that you bring this up. It's so, so cool to be vulnerable in such an open space. But basically everyone told me this privately. So we're craving for empathetic leaders, but we're still not quite there yet. And I think, we're starving for these Yodas who can, who are self-aware and who are very empathetic as leaders. And I think we've all heard, oh, make America great again, or make Sweden great again. And I don't know what the politicians are saying in Bosnia, make Bosnia great again. I don't know, are they? I don't know, what are they saying? Anyways, fuck what they're saying. What I mean is, like, to get where they want to be, all I'm saying is that we need to make leaders human again. That's where we need to start. And then comes all the rest. Next one. Are you able to hyper-focus? So I bet all of you are like masters at multitasking. You are like having 7 screens at the same time. You're walking your dog, you're doing your homework, you're like getting a manicure, and I don't know, doing 10 times at the same time. We've all mastered that. But one of the best lessons in crisis management that I ever learned was to hyper-focus. And that means taking one task and doing that in a specific time frame. So for the next 30 minutes, I will be doing this keynote speak, and that's all I'm doing. That's all I'm focusing on, nothing else. And I think that's very hard right now, because we have all of these things that are stealing our energy. We're doing so many things simultaneously. And I think what we need to do is that we need to unlearn to multitask a bit, because it's becoming draining. It's becoming hard to do what we actually need to do, because we're doing too much at the same time. Next one. Are you a futurist? So futurists, they make sure that organizations aren't surprised by the future. Well, as much as they can. So futurists are very good at considering, multiple multiple options. They're very good at seeing new possibilities, and they sort of stay on top of trends. They're very good at networking. Hands up if you feel that you're a futurist. Good. I'm moving to Bosnia. But I think that, future leaders, they need to be futurists, because you need and as a futurist, you need to look beyond your own organization, because it's very hard to sort of flush out the real sort of innovative stuff, the real needle-moving stuff, if you're only working in the sort of four walls of your own organization. And a very important aspect of leadership is to make sure that you sort of activate constant change. And that's not only in your own organization, it has to be also in the ecosystem and the society that your organization exists in. And I have a great example of this, because during the pandemic, you had like scientist teams and you had the pharmaceutical companies. And what did they do? They came together and they created the corona vaccine, which I know a lot of people have doubts about, but anyways. They created that vaccine, and by using a sort of radically inclusive workflow process, they managed to scale their own resources, and they managed to scale their own ambitions far beyond what they could have done if they had worked as an individual, as one department, or as one organization. So think about it. Like, how could you reach the same output if you sort of push the boundaries for how you are collaborating right now? And you don't have to be working in an organization to do this. It's like just a matter of like pushing your limits a little bit in terms of who you reach out to. Like, how are you networking? Do a little bit and see what happens, where you sort of get out of your comfort zone a little bit. And the next one. Can you do serious things without taking yourself too seriously? So think about it. The power of humor in leadership. Was there a question? No. So the power of humor in leadership. And the rationale here is super simple. So when Sana and I, when we share a laugh, hormones are released in our brains. Endorphins, dopamine. And these hormones, they emulate the feeling of a runner's high or like extreme joy. And it's these chemical reactions in our brain that makes us feel bonded. So this is super important. You can apply that in your work to make your colleagues and yourself feel better. But how do I do this? Do I go around and am I like Joey and Friends, throw a bunch of one-liners? What do I do? Like, I'm not a comedian. How the fuck do I do that? But the thing is, I realized how you should do this. And you can do it by just noticing what's true. Noticing what's true. What does that mean? So, during the pandemic, a couple of years ago, the entire Viaplay, 2,500 colleagues of mine, all of us were sent home. So for 2 years, I only saw my team through Teams, in this little space in my computer. That's where I saw them. And everything happened there. I built a team from scratch through that little Teams box. I recruited a team. We were like 2 in the start. We were 12 in the end. Everything happened at Teams. And the first time that we got back in the office, we were sitting and having a fika. That's like afternoon, kaffa in the afternoon. And we were talking, about the pandemic and how it had affected us and how it was like just seeing people like, in real life again after 2 years. And then one of the dudes says like, you know what? Like, I've just been combing the front of my hair for the past 2 years because no one ever saw the back in Teams. So I've just been like doing my hair in front. And like, that was so funny, noticing what's real. Because when he said that, then the next person was like, but I've just been wearing a shirt and I had my tie, but then I've had pajamas all the time and you guys didn't know. And then like, we laughed so much. And that is, noticing what's true. Like, we have those funny moments all around us, all the time, but we need to notice them and we need to share them. So you don't need to sort of make up things to be funny. You can just notice what's true. And I mean, you gotta love a person like that who says that he just combs his hair. Yeah. So next one. So these are the 10. And take a picture now, if you want to save them. I don't know if they're going to share these presentations, but these are the 10. And I want you to go home, and I want you to think about these. I want you to talk to your friends, your family, your coworkers. If you have a manager, talk with them about these things, because the most important thing to me about my speech here today is the actions that you take after it. This is pointless unless, it doesn't drive you anywhere. So think about these things. What I mentioned in the beginning, passion and purpose. Are you true to yourself when it comes to that? If not, perhaps you should, look at taking another road, detouring a bit, pivoting. What's the worst thing that can happen? And please, next picture. Yeah, this was basically what I was saying. What question are you missing to consider? And then we take the next. So that's basically what I had for today. Thank you so much for your attention. And please, 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 let's connect. I'm mostly on Instagram, but I'm on LinkedIn as well. Super happy to connect with you guys. And I also want to say to all the ladies in the room, I am working on sort of a mentoring program between Sweden and Bosnia. So if you're interested in that, hit me up and let's talk. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, that was fantastic, Azra. Okay, so we have even a bit of time to spare for the Q&A. Are there any questions within the audience? Okay, we have one to the left at the very end. Oh, what? Microphone? Okay. Okay. Oh, okay.
Why do you curse so much? That was my first question. I don't know. It just comes very natural for me. Okay, next. Yes, I'm Bosnian. Exactly. That's the answer. Thank you. Thank you. I'll do that one next time. Yeah.
Hey,
so what was your question?
It's here.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
If I stopped someone. Thank you for the wonderful presentation, and I can definitely feel and hear Swedish entrepreneur and leader coming from you. I have been there for 2 years, and I have learned a lot about what you have just shared, and I didn't have the opportunity to learn it here. And thank you so much. And I think this event and you here and all of us here actually talk a lot about how motivated we are to discover what our passions are. And my question for you, how long did it take you to actually start pursuing your dream life?
Good question. So I think I actually, I come from a background where my father and my mother, they're not schooled in any way. So I started off with music, actually studying music production, because that's my passion. My mother is a singer, so I got that from like early age. So after I graduated from like mid-school or gymnasium or whatever it's called here, I started at a music production program. And in the end of that program, we had like a week of learning about our rights as a producer, as a singer, as an artist. And that's where I was like, ooh, law is kind of fun. Maybe I can, combine these two, music and law. So after I graduated from the music production program, I started law school. And then, I don't know what happened, but like law totally swallowed me. Because law is, it's a lot. So, but I was, very interested in intellectual property rights. So I studied the kind of law that was very attached to music, and I'm working in the entertainment industry now. So I think I've sort of followed that dream because I am in the entertainment industry, and I worked as a general counsel at a music record label, and now I'm at Viaplay, which is one of the biggest streaming companies in the world, growing very fast. So I have all of that, but I think that I sort of dropped the ball when it comes to music, like me, myself, being a musician, because I didn't feel that I had the safety in terms, the financial safety from home to be able to exploit that dream. I had other friends whose parents had money, and they were like, "Oh, idi ti u rad šta hoćeš, pa probaj to." It was like that. But for me, it wasn't really like that, and it wasn't like my parents said, "You can't pursue that dream." But I just didn't feel like I had the opportunity. I just felt that like I needed to take a more safe route. So whenever, if I have children in the future, which I do today, I have 2 girls, they're 1 and they're 3 years old. I know when it's their turn, when they are 18, they're gonna go and, if they wanna do music, they're gonna do music. Like I will be there. I will be able to support them in all ways. So I would say I actually found my passion for what I'm doing today quite early, but maybe not because I really, really wanted to do this. But I love what I do. But right now I'm thinking like, maybe I'll do a CD before I'm 40. Yeah. What about that? I still haven't let go of that dream. Yeah. So like it can take time. It's a trial and error thing. You don't have to know. Even if you don't know, just try things.
First of all, your presentation was really interesting, but the music production grabbed my attention because currently I have a big question in my mind because I'm really good at, first of all, I'm a high schooler. So I'm thinking about what path to take in life. And basically, I'm really interested in maths and physics and engineering, but also I'm a musician. So I wanted to ask you, is the music production good path to take in life? Is it like profitable? Because I need to think of that as well.
Yeah. I totally get you, and it's such a hard question. Because I think it's obvious for you where your passion lies. You seem, you're probably like me, you're very passionate about music. But it's like a little, the chances of making it in music, I don't know how it is here in Bosnia, but like if you want to, I guess anywhere, like if you want to grow big, and be international, it's tough. The competition is super, super tough. But I mean, if you make it, then obviously like finances won't be a problem. But I think that there's a way actually of combining those things, like I've done. Like I still, I have a little studio at home, so I do my music stuff. But I also have this security side. So maybe you can try to do both for a while, not necessarily pick and choose now, because I think you're so young. And you can definitely, you have time, so you afford to sort of try out that trial and error thing a bit and see where that goes. Don't choose between the two so early.
Okay. And
that would be my thing.
Sorry. One more question. What's your favorite genre?
Damn. Toughest question today. Don't do that. Kill my darlings. Okay, hip hop. Yeah.
First, I want to say thank you for such an awesome presentation.
Thank you.
And your thank yous are really amazing. I wanted to ask you a question like, you mentioned that you built a team like in 2 years during the COVID. Did you know these 10 cues before building a team, or you just figured them out along the way?
No, I think I knew, I had a sense of them. Not all of them, I would say. But yeah, I think I knew, like the passion and purpose thing have always been something that, my mother has talked a lot about, since I was young. And, she was my first sort of manager that I, looked up to. So I think that thing came quite naturally, that I've been thinking about that question a lot. But then this thing about being a futurist, like I don't know how it is in Bosnia, but in Sweden, for example, like staying on top of trends and networking, that's so important, networking. And that's what I said, like the peers you have next to you right now, in 10 years, you will all be in different places. Make sure to get to know each other now and stay in contact with each other, because you never know when you're gonna need each other. It's super important. And this is something that, my mom and my father, they came from here, and they, where, they never talked about networking as so important. But in Sweden, it is super important. And I think I found out about it way too late, sort of. Not too late, but I wish I knew the importance of it, earlier on. So I think some of the questions, yes. Some of the questions, no, they came later. Thank you. Yeah.
Hello.
Hey.
First, shout out to all of the home studio owners. Respect. And
Thank
shout
you.
out to your presentation. It was lovely as well.
Thank you so much.
I wanted to go back to the second and third topic, the topics of lifelong learning, and when you mentioned the latest research. A quick anecdote. I heard that the scariest thing for a researcher to hear is the latest research shows. Since I think you're familiar, but they've done some testing in the field of psychology where there was some bias among individuals when they were faced within a group where they could obviously see the impact of the group on the individual decision, even though their answers might have been right. But because of the peer pressure and whatnot, they switch it back. And that leads me to my actual question, which is, in the field of leadership, as you can see, here you have some peer pressure bias in a way. Then in the field of human resources, you have the personality bias, because we are prone to hire people who are, I don't know, who have symmetrical lines on the face, or I don't know, their personality brings up them to an even higher level. But like in your practice, how many of the leaders do you see where the bias of their personality is present, and that is kind of covering the incompetence in both knowledge and emotional intelligence and the other things in life that you mentioned?
So basically, like, I don't know if I understand the question maybe correctly, but have they sort of gotten to where they've gotten because of like positive biases? No? I think they play a huge impact, and that's why I talked about the importance of acknowledging them and avoiding them, and especially calling them out, because I don't think that we do that enough when it comes to, we don't do that enough on management level. And I sit in a public company that is, we have 2,500 employees, and we have, we're on the global market. And when we sit and discuss certain things, I'm gonna get fired now. But no, but when we sit and discuss certain things, it's so clear to me that we just don't realize the biases that some people have. Yeah. Sorry, I have a bit of a hard time hearing you. I have tinnitus, whatever it's called in the, so it just rings in my ear. I need to hear you properly, I'm sorry. Gluha sam, izvini.
Ne. U redu je, trebao sam zadržati. Zato, okay, I should have mentioned that there is a follow-up. In sales, you see those energetic people selling and so on. And Eddie said even before, or his question was, to kind of leave things on the positive note. Of course, you're going to have some people who might want to lead in silence, lead by example and actions.
Leaders. Yeah.
So how do those people, maybe I don't see myself as the most energetic guy there is, how do I, or somebody, overcomes those difficulties and barriers and biases where loud, high energy people would kind of take the attention most times than not? So maybe that's a better question.
Yeah, thank you. No, but I think you need to start with baby steps there. And one of my favorite sort of things to tell students is that when you get out into work life, and when you're going on these interviews, when they're recruiting you guys, you need to sort of see what kind of manager you will get. Because if it's a good manager sees those informal leaders, and they can make sure that you grow over time. And you don't have to be, I'm very high energy and bubbly and all of that, but you don't have to be like that to be a leader. But I think you need to have a leader who sees those qualities and who will sort of take care of you in the right way from start. So when you're sitting there in those interviews and they ask you questions, I always tell students, be ballsy and ask questions. Ask the right questions to to the manager also, to sort of get a feel for, is this person, you know, a sensible person? Is this someone that feels like a genuine, a warm person who will, you know, care for me, you know, not only as you know, as a coworker, but someone who's genuinely interested in making sure that, you know, people thrive. Yeah, test them out, because it will need, you will need a good leader to help you overcome that. And you will need to push yourself also, but you can take baby steps. But if you have a leader who is not sort of woke when it comes to those things, then I don't think, you know, you will maybe fall between the cracks instead. Yeah, thanks.
Hi.
Where are we? I'm also
right
blind.
Way back.
Where? Oh, okay, yeah. Hello.
Hello.
I think it's the light. Yeah.
Probably. So I'll make my question quick since we don't have a lot of time. Since you feel so real, and I love how in tune you are with the audience, my question is, if we manage to become a leader, how do we keep leading when we're going through a burnout or when we don't believe in what we're leading at this point? Can you give us an example?
Yeah. So I think I mentioned my Nana, right? So that's sort of leading through a very, very tough time. She is a very important person for me. She's the only person that except for my mother. My father stayed here during the war, and all of the rest of my family. So my mother and my Nana, those were the two persons that came with me to Sweden. So when she passed away, it was very, very tough. And I think what you need to do then as a leader is not go into the office and be like, hello, you know, everything is okay. I think you need to be authentic, and I think you need to be transparent. And you don't need to open yourself up and tell everyone everything about how you are feeling. But I think it's important, and I did that the very same day that happened. My first thought was like, oh, no, I'm going to go into these meetings, I'm going to have all of these meetings, you know, I'm going to do all of this. And then, like, I just took, you know, a step back, and I was like, okay, but wait a second. What kind of signals am I sending out if I do this? And people then in 2 days find out that my Nana passed away 2 days ago, and I was like, oh, everything is good, you know, and just kept doing things. So you need to make sure, if you have a hard time, to still be authentic and set the right example. Because if I am vulnerable before my colleagues, then I'm saying to them that it's okay for you to be vulnerable too. And it's okay for you to lose your shit sometimes. Like, we're just human beings, right? Like, we all go through tough times. But if your leader is super, super, you know, this elite person who never shows vulnerability, who can't admit that they're wrong, who's a person who is the one in the room who is always right and has all the answers, then you're not setting, you're just raising the vulnerability bar. You're not, you know, lowering it. So I think you need to act in an authentic and in a transparent way, because it's okay. You're a leader, but that doesn't mean you're a machine.